Let's come down past the crocuses onto the copper beech and past the cork oaks with their lovely trunks to have a look at a yellow flowered tree over there. And here it is, a favourite of mine in February, the Mimosa, an acacia actually from Australia, although it is associated really with the Riviera, Côte d'Azur, where they cut it for flowers in the winter. Gorgeous splash of yellow and fluffy, and with lovely dissected foliage for the rest of the year. And because I love it so much, I've had to plant another one. In fact, I took the top off this in order to try and bush it out a bit, because they really are very quick growing. This one, I would say, is about 4 or 5 years old and about 4 to 5 meters tall. Mimosas can be quite thuggish and invasive in warm climates, and so they're considered a rather noxious weed in places like South Africa and New Zealand. I've only seen them suckering here once. Normally they sort of behave as trees. I've rather given up the pretense that this is an alpine bed, because as you can see, I seem to have rather large trees growing here. But it is gravelly. The basis of it was gravel dredged up from the estuary when they used to have a dredger going. And it makes a good drainage, and so many plants are happy growing here that I'm afraid I've given up. The alpines take their chance with things like this Brazilian monkey puzzle. At the top of these steps, there's the wonderful Hellebore Anna's red. But the trouble is, this time of year, the leaves get terribly tatty. So there's a simple expedient, and that is to remove them, revealing the flowers when they're fully out. So that's what I intend to do. And also this phormium has grown again, rather large. They do tend to. And I think I'll need to get some of those leaves off that are covering the Hellebore. Well, you've seen the before, and now here is the after. Leaves removed and the phormium cut quite severely back, which actually took me an awful lot longer than I had anticipated. But I think you'll agree this is a magnificent sight now, without all those horrible manky leaves. Hellebore Anna's red, wonderful. Now something up here is shouting pink at me. Pink! Pink, it shouts, pink. And my goodness gracious me, the catkins on this willow. Now this features in a lot of photos of gardens at this time of year. But I must say it is pretty splendid, isn't it? Now, after the rain storm we had yesterday, the catkins are just full of little bubbles of water, like tiny diamonds. Amazing. Amazing. This is a willow called Mount Azo. after a volcano in Japan. I'm not entirely sure why. Perhaps because it sort of spews out in its habit. Now, under the willow, Mount Azo, we have a relative of the Daphne, this rather gaunt-looking, architectural-looking, well, almost tropical-looking shrub called Edgeworthia. The snag is that it will get a bit taller, but you have to sort of bend over to look at the flowers, which are downward facing. But my goodness, what a sweet scent. Fantastically sweet scented. There is a form with smaller flowers. This is the one called grandiflora. And thinner stems, which can be tied into knots, should you so desire. And here is the smaller flowered version of Edgeworthia. This one has got orangey red petals, and so this is called Red Dragon. Rather attractive, not quite as robust looking. Nellie waiting at the gate, wanting to play with Bertie. Now there are two things I want to show you here. The first is this lovely winter flowering clematis with its very fleshy petals. This I collected in China, in Sichuan, at least 20 years ago. And it's called Clematis europhylla. Slightly tender, but it's been here obviously for 20 years and happy. Clematis is draping itself over a Berberis, also 20 years old, collected in Luding province. And a Berberis expert saw the same thing collected by a friend on the same trip to China and got rather excited because he thinks it's a new species. So he sent the DNA off, and indeed it is a new species of Berberis. So we've called it Berberis ludingensis, from where it came in China. I'm always amazed how many flowering plants are scented in the middle of winter. And here's a case in point, the witch hazel. Now this one I planted, gosh, about 42 years ago. Not doing all that brilliantly this year. It has these, of course, it's intriguing little spider flowers, and with a classic smell. This is a very old-fashioned variety, pallida. Still a very nice yellow. There have been so many more come on the market since. Now here's an orange version called Aphrodite. Now the orange ones, and especially the actually dark red ones, which are also available, can get rather lost. And so I've actually planted this one facing west, so the winter sun can make the petals glow. Unfortunately, there is no winter sun today. It's really quite grey. Not as scented as the yellow one. Coming through the pillars of the temple, I spy another scented shrub. It's a lovely Daphne with white flowers, which can get quite big in time. Lovely scent and pure white. This is Daphne White Queen. Now February is the time for the Hellebore. And this group I planted in 1985 or 6. And at the time, these were sort of the state of the art. And not that exciting, I think you'll agree. Given a fancy name, Galaxy series or something. Anyway, mind you, of course, they've been diluted by seeding themselves around. But even so, it wasn't anything very special. Of course, things soon got, the hybridists soon got going, and by the end of the 1980s into the 1990s, we started getting some pretty fancy Hellebores at a pretty fancy price. Let's have a look. Of course, the doubles started coming in, or the fully double ones, like this one here, at a fully over double price. But they were very exciting. And they came with spots, without spots, different coloured pinks and purples. The big snag for most of these is that they are demurely looking downwards, and the weight of the flower of these big doubles is such that it even bends the stem further. So there is only one way of looking at all the different Hellebores, and that is by picking a few flowers and sticking them in a bowl of water, floating them on top, and you can examine them at your heart's content. So we'll have a look and do that in a minute. Another breed have gone for these enormous flowers. These are really quite big, and a few of them sort of face outwards, so at least you have a chance of seeing the flower. But really, the answer to Hellebores, if you have it, is a bank where you can look up into the flowers. Here's another intriguing one, yellow with a sort of black around the nectary. Good contrast. Here's one that's not quite white, but has got sort of red nectaries and a very faint rim of red around the white petals. And here's another Hellebore which has very, very double flowers, but unfortunately the flowers are so heavy that they fall down, which is a shame. Again, the only way to see this one properly is in a bowl of water floating. Well, here's how I like to display the Hellebores. Floating in water on a shallow glass bowl. Look at all those amazing variety.